Hi everybody, welcome back to my garden. So since the last video I did, which was my garden tour video after planting, it's been 2 weeks. Has it been 2 weeks? Yeah, it's been 2 weeks. So right now, that was filmed on the Tuesday after Memorial Day weekend, and this is the 19th of June. So almost 3 weeks it's been. And I was on vacation for a little over a week, and I came back and my garden had just exploded. One of the biggest places where I noticed it is in the tomatoes, how much bigger they've gotten. And they are all flowering right now, which is good. So there are a couple of things I need to do in the garden this week. Most of the garden is pretty self-sufficient. You don't have to babysit it. This time in the garden there isn't a whole lot to do, but I do like to keep an eye on my tomatoes, especially the leaves that are pointing down toward the ground or touching the ground. Now when I planted my tomatoes, I made sure that there were no leaves touching the ground, and then as these leaves have grown, they've reached down and now they're touching the ground. So I have to go through and trim the leaves. The other thing you have to decide at this point is suckers or no suckers. I'm kind of a whatever I feel like when I'm trimming off the plant. If I feel like there's an overabundance of suckers on the plant, then I'll take some of them off. But the rest of them I just leave. You know, if they're pointing in the right direction and it'll give you a few more tomatoes, I just leave the suckers on the plants. So you have to decide when you're trimming down your tomatoes if you want to leave the suckers on or not. So let me show you a little bit of trimming. So let's pick this tomato plant. You can see down below there's a lot of foliage touching the ground, and it wasn't like that when I planted them, so all that foliage has to come off. So I ended up finishing this whole row, and this is what I've got. Now to put you down here, you can see that I don't have any foliage down toward the ground. The last thing I do in the garden for this time of year is I give my tomatoes a spray with aspirin in it. Now what this does is it triggers a response in the tomatoes as if they're being attacked by some kind of disease, whatever that disease is. When tomatoes are under attack by disease, they give off some, and don't ask me what it is, they give off some hormone or enzyme or whatever that is the same as aspirin, just regular old aspirin. And that reaction then helps them to fend off diseases. So when my tomatoes set their first flowers, I like to spray them with an aspirin spray. Now you can continue to do this throughout the year, and like every 2 weeks you can do this. But I tend to do it earlier in the year to try to fend off some of the diseases. And I've never had a problem with like tomato leaf spot or anything like that. My biggest problem in my garden is blight, and it's late blight. So this does not help against late blight. It has iffy results from what I've read on early blight. So you can try it if it's something like, if you're getting some tomato diseases, you can try it. Right now my tomatoes are looking really, really healthy. There's no leaf curling, there's no sunburn on them, nothing like that. When I first put them in the ground, they looked like they were kind of suffering a little bit because it was so hot. It was in the 90s and very humid, and they were just like, what the heck happened here? But right now they're doing really good, and I'm really happy with how they're doing. But before anything comes around, I want to make sure I give them a shot with that aspirin spray. So I use this bottle, 1 liter bottle. I put 1 aspirin in there, and I just give them a spray. I don't really worry about getting underneath all the leaves. I just make sure that they have a good spray. One of the things I noticed when I was going around trimming tomato plants is this. This is Early Girl. And you can see why she gets her name. She's the first one with a tomato on. So if you look in this pepper plant, you can see all the flower buds in there. You see them in there? It's a whole bunch of them. There's some flowers on there. They're all loaded with flowers, all the pepper plants. One of the things I also noticed while I was out walking around my garden is my potatoes are flowering. So almost all of them are flowering. Those little ones over there are not. Whatever this variety is, and I can't remember, I'll have to go back and look at the video. That one's flowering. This variety is not. So I'll put the names on the screens to tell you which is which. Okay, so that's all done. This is the aspirin that I'm using. It's just your regular generic 325 milligram aspirin. So after you put this on, you don't want to do it like at noon. This is late afternoon right now. Morning would probably be best, but I didn't have time this morning. And yeah, the only thing you might get is you might get a little bit of leaf curl with this, but it goes away. It's just cosmetic, and it doesn't hurt the plant at all. So my tomatoes usually tolerate it pretty well, so I haven't had any problems with it. While I was trimming up the tomatoes, I noticed that there was some storm damage. We've had some pretty wild storms here in the last couple weeks, and we've gotten 4 inches of rain since I left for vacation until now, or in the middle of last week, I should say. So that's a lot of rain. It's been warm since I came back, like in the 90s, and last couple of days has cooled off, but that hot humid weather is really when the blight gets going. I don't have to worry about it probably for another month, but that's when it really gets going. So yeah, tomato hands. The other thing I remembered while I was doing this is, if you're growing heirloom tomatoes, kind of look out for fused blossoms. I don't have any. I have one spot that might be one, but I'm not sure yet. So I left it on there, and I like to pick off the fused blossoms. The fused blossoms is how you get your cat face tomatoes from the heirlooms. And if you don't mind that, then you can leave them on there. But I like to pick them off if I see them. And you can tell when there's a double blossom or triple blossom sometimes. And that's typical of the heirloom plants. So I like to pick them off. What else? Yeah, so the storm damage, there were some broken branches on here. Just make sure that your tomatoes are, if you're growing them vertically, that they are attached to whatever trellis or whatever you're growing. And if you're using a rigid type clip on the bottom, you have to watch that, because as the tomato gets taller, the stem gets thicker, and you don't want that clip to be cutting off the circulation of the tomato plant. So I kind of take the bottom ones and move them up to the next one, you know, and just kind of do this kind of thing all the way up. And that way I don't have to buy a whole bunch of clips. I just use the same ones over and over again. So, okay, I think that's going to be it for today. If you have any questions, please leave them down in the comment section below. I'm thinking about doing a gardening Q&A, because these weeks, I should say, right about now, are weeks where the garden is just growing and I'm just doing maintenance. So I'm thinking about doing a Q&A. If you have any questions that you would want answered during a Q&A, like you want to know how I do something or how I take care of something, leave them down in the comment section below, and I'll put those in a future Q&A video. So I'm going to ask for this for a couple of videos, and then if I get any questions, then I'll go ahead and do that video. So thank you so much for watching. I hope your garden is growing well. Let me know how it's doing down in the comment section below. I'm really interested in kind of hearing how everything's going throughout the country. I like to hear from the different parts of the country. So again, until next time, everybody, happy gardening. Bye-bye.